Good morning, and thank you for joining us here one more time in Breaking News.
Daniel, that will break you.
Good morning, Jose.
Good morning, Joan, and to our audience as well. Today, we will treat a very important and delicate subject, the spread of Ebola across Africa. A situation that, unfortunately, has grown out of control.
Indeed. In some other news, we will be talking about the iPad mini and why is it that some of them have been left out in the cold?
Exactly. Then, for our section of well-being, we will treat some steps to move away from consumerism.
We'll also be talking about this new experimental treatment that has been proven on primates and that is reporting some benefits. Actually, it prevents the illness, Ebola specifically, even after the symptoms of the disease appear. And we'll be expanding this information right after commercial, so please don't choke your control.
Stay with us.
I understood some things don't last forever. Life was tougher since I realized she was cheating on me. Somehow life has lost its sense. I need to get this out of my chest.
Oh man, what did you do it? You should have had some of this.
In other news, some people used to say that the things that you own eventually own you. So, by knowing this, it's important to have some kind of tips to know how to get out of the hands of consumerism. Let's look at this.
Hi, my name is Susan. I'm a shopaholic.
You can't simply deny ownership. There is a mental space that the concept of ownership fills in the human mind. This is a space that can't contain a vacuum. You can't simply remove the consumerism and expect that something good will automatically fill its place. Some people, in the fight against our preoccupation with stuff, say that this void should be filled with spirituality, people, or principles. This is where I disagree. All of those things are great, but there are specific answers for a general problem. An equivalent piece of advice might be to tell a man to play the violin after retirement when he has more free time. The advice may work, but it is too specific to be meaningful for everyone. The man might not like the violin or may not want to play it all the time. Better advice would be a general recipe such as finding a hobby. The general solution to the consumerism abyss is building a stable inner world. Spirituality, relationships, philosophy, learning, ethics are all facets of this bigger idea. This inner world isn't entirely detached from the material one. Instead, it's a new lens for viewing what happens in it. A person with a solid inner world won't obsess over buying things or forsake the objects she owns. Instead, she can view it as a person playing a game would look at the tokens on the board. Seeing past the ownership illusion, she can put all her effort into experiencing the game. How do you build this inner world? Throughout time, people have come up with many different answers to this question. I think that the answer is so difficult to arrive upon, not because it is too hard or complicated, but because of its simplicity and intangibility it's tricky to communicate. Simply, I believe the answer is learning, not just a sub-branch of activities that has to do with education, but actually improving your understanding. This comes from a combination of experience, education, and thought. Experience builds this mental world most directly by showing you reality up front and unaltered. Education constructs the inner world by expanding the capacity of your thoughts. Finally, thinking scopes the basic forms presented in experience and education. This sculpted internal world is difficult to describe. Many great philosophical thinkers have touched upon it, but only from a passing glance rather than direct contact. I don't believe I've managed to describe it directly either, but the idea remains the same. The way to break the bonds of consumerism and see past the marriage of ownership is in building a mind capable of doing this.
And to go deeper on consumerism, we have our special reporter, Jonathan, who is at UNE and is trying to find out what people believe of consumerism. Let's go for him.
I'm Jonathan and I'm at Universidad Nacional in order to know more about consumerism. What do people think about it? Excuse me,
Hi.
can I ask some question about consumerism?
Yeah, sure. Am I on the TV? Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
We want to know how do you define consumerism?
Yeah, sure. I think that's when you buy products, you use them, and then you just throw them away.
Okay, what are some facts that influence of consumerism?
Oh, yeah, sure. Perhaps selfishness, that you want to afford products that you don't actually need. I would say that it's all due to selfishness, that you're not aware that there are some products that you just don't need.
Is there any positive aspect of consumerism?
Unless you call selfishness, unhappiness, benefits, I think those are the only aspects that you can take from consumerism that are just negative aspects.
Is there any way to escape culture of consumerism?
No, I think we just cannot avoid consumerism. It has become part of our lives, and it's part of our culture. It's part of our identities, and we just won't move away from it because it's something that defines us.
How do you define consumerism?
Consumerism, it's something that's affecting society nowadays, you know? Like people buying things they don't really need, and especially, you know, children. Whatever they see on TV or they watch on TV, they are asking their parents to buy for them. Yeah.
Are there any positive aspects of consumerism?
Yeah, maybe the country kind of grows because of people excessively buying things, and yeah, I don't know, maybe companies are getting bigger and bigger, and this kind of brings positive effects on the economy of the country somehow, I would say. Yeah.
Is there any way to escape your culture of consumerism?
Maybe by decreasing the amount of advertisements that we have on TV and on newspapers. Because actually today, you know, you can see advertisements in any everywhere, almost everywhere. Look, you just have to take a look around and see what's surrounding you. Like many advertisements all around the place, and you cannot even be in peace when you're online, let's say, or when you're chatting with someone, because there is a banner on the bottom of the screen that's advertising something, always.
Finally, how consumerism affect your environment and the nature?
Nature. I don't know if you have heard of this advertising being called pollution. or visual pollution. Because if you look, let's say, at the side of the road when you're driving, for example, there are hundreds of billboards advertising things, and that actually, let's say, damages the nature, and not only the nature, but the way people see nature. Because, when you're outside, all you see is billboards. And what about these flyers or brochures that, let's say, restaurants give away or hand in to people, and right after 5 minutes or even just 30 seconds before or after that, they throw it away. That's pollution.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
My name is Jonathan Valverde. Breaking news.
So is it gonna be broadcasted today, or?
Yes, of course. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Greatness is just something we made up. Somehow, we come to believe that greatness is a gift reserved for a chosen few, for prodigies, for superstars. And the rest of us can only stand by watching. We can't forget that. Greatness is not just some DNA stuff. We are all capable of it.
Trafficking of Kenyan children from impoverished villages to towns and cities for domestic labor, sex work, and to beg on the streets is on the rise, experts have said. Poverty, dysfunction of families, and a lack of access to secondary education force children to seek work in urban areas, where they are often exploited by human traffickers. One of the recent growing phenomena is children being trafficked domestically or within the country from rural areas into urban areas. While there are no statistics on child trafficking in Kenya, anecdotal evidence suggests increasing numbers of children from rural homes are moving to urban areas in the hope of improving their lives. High fertility rates, coupled with rural poverty and land scarcity, drive more than 250,000 Kenyans into cities each. High fertility rates, coupled with rural poverty and land scarcity, drive more than 250,000 Kenyans into cities each year, according to the World Bank, which predicts that the majority of Kenyans will live in urban areas by 2033. A third of Kenyans, or around 12 million people, live in urban centers, according to the 2009 census, up from 5 million, or 19%, in 1999. Kenya has 40 million population and growing by 1 million every year, according to the World Bank, and it is likely to double by 2045. In Nairobi's sprawling slums, which house two-thirds of the city's 3 million people, trafficked children work in brothels, bars, and drug trade. Girls as young as 9-year-old reportedly work in brothels and as pole dancers in clubs. Children are also used as beggars, scrap metal collectors, and petty criminals. Kenya is a source, destination, and transit country for trafficking. It has been in the U.S. Department of State's Tier 2 watch list for 3 years, indicating that it's not doing enough to combat trafficking. There is often a fine line between economic migration, where people move for better living standard, and child trafficking, which the United Nations define as the recruitment, transfer, and receipt of children for the purpose of exploitation. Parents living in poverty in rural Kenya traditionally send their children to live with relatives in urban areas, but they often end up being exploited. Child trafficking is often perceived as being a normal and acceptable practice. Parents in the rural areas believe their children are in very good hands. One girl, orphan at the age of 6, was tricked into doing unpaid domestic work from the age of 12. She worked unpaid for several women. One employer's husband tried to rape her. Another employee used her to traffic marijuana and sell illegal brewed alcohol. Experts said it is important to provide greater support to families where children are hungry and abused. Children are most at risk after completing primary school around age 12, as half do not continue to secondary school. Many of these children are then the ones who end up in domestic work and also in commercial sexual exploitation, since they are an easy target for traffickers.
To expand a little bit further the topic of human trafficking, today we have a very special guest. This man is called Numan Kakun. Is that well pronounced, sir?
Yes.
He comes from Bangladesh and he's actually a human trafficker. Now, he will provide us with some answers on this topic so that our audience knows a little bit more about it. So, sir, what is human trafficking?
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. This very controversial topic, human trafficking, I can define human trafficking as a way to obtain money. Sometimes it's a trade of humans. We use these people for different purposes, slave purposes, to force, to work, and different. I think that it is a criminal activity. Sometimes we earn a lot of money. Can do that.
Perfect, sir, perfect. And how do traffickers recruit their victims? For example, in your case.
I target vulnerable people. I think that sometimes people need to obtain money easily. That's why I used to help them.
Oh, that's really interesting, sir. And how do victims of human trafficking do not run away?
We control everything. They pay the food, the clothes, and also the housing. That's why they don't have any option to go away, and sometimes they feel afraid because they work in a very different place. Sometimes they didn't know where they are.
Oh my God, that sounds really cruel, you know. But anyways, what effect does trafficking have on victims?
I think that it is a difficult job. Sometimes they are in a difficult environment, and sometimes the victim risk obtain different diseases, and sometimes they die.
Oh my God, that sounds terrible. And well, who can become a victim of human trafficking?
I think that everyone, men, women, also children, but I think that the more vulnerable are young girls, because we use them to obtain money for economical purposes.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that information, sir, and we really appreciated your presence in this interview, and well, that will be all for today's. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, to continue with the topic on human trafficking, we have another very important and special guest again. We have here Mr. John Smith, who is an undercover agent from the police department in the United States. And we're here to discuss a little bit more on human trafficking. Welcome, Mr. Smith.
It's a pleasure to be here and to have the opportunity to discuss about this controversial topic.
Thank you for being here. First of all, how do the police department define human trafficking?
I think that human trafficking is the transportation of people from one place to another, or one country to another, for different purposes, and sometimes for exploitation.
What are some of those purposes?
They use people to obtain money easily, and I was thinking about one example of Sarah. Sarah was 18 years old in Zambia, and he was looking for a job, and one relative offered her an opportunity, and at the end they realized that it was not an opportunity there, and he was forced to become a prostitute. That's why many people are involved in this controversial topic.
That's a very common case, let's say, right? Who can become a victim?
I think that everyone. I think that poor people, sometimes they look for people with low education, and I think that everyone can be part of this controversial topic.
I would say anyone can be a victim. And who are the traffickers then?
I think that we find many people, and I remember a case in California in which parents were part of the trafficking their children.
Whoa.
That's why it gives us a big example how many people are involved in this business.
And traffickers not only come from the lower, let's say, class, also from the high class, and even their families. The same family of the trafficker, the victim, let's say.
Yeah.
Then what are some of the techniques that the police department is using to prevent human trafficking?
I think that we tend to use mass media, and sometimes we go to high school, but also it is important to talk to our families, but sometimes it's very difficult because this business is related to prostitution and also to many people related to drugs. That's why it is difficult to eliminate.
Well, thank you very much. And let's continue now with the news. Thank you.